Hello, hello, hello. Hi, guys. Hello. Hey, gang. It is the day before the day before. The day before the day before. By the way, I've stepped into a conversation here that I'm watching everybody's comments and I've been reading up on what you're chatting about. And it seems like a lot of it is cord cutting. And, what sources am I going to rely on in the media going forward? I totally get it. It's dangerous for my cable affiliation. It's tough for CNN. It's tough for Fox News. It's tough for MSN and all the cable providers. And I've told the story on air many times about how during the pandemic, our daughter and son-in-law, moved in and cut the cord. I'm like, hey, the mortgage gets paid, in part by my cable work. Um, but during the course of this holiday, one of the things that I want to do is sit down with my wife and go through our credit cards because I was using what's it called? Rocket, where you can look at your bills for duplication. And I couldn't do it without her having, been present with me. But I'm convinced we're paying for some of these sources multiple times, which is really tough, which is really, really tough. So, as I say, it is the day before the day before. You can still give the gift of headline entertainment because of our friends at Parks Casino. Did you watch Saturday Night Live on Saturday? It was really great. There were so many cameos. I love seeing Tom Hanks as Sully Sullenberger or Sullenberg. Well, the guy who landed on the Hudson. But what stands out in my mind is that Colin Jost told a pretty off-color joke about his wife, Scarlett Johansson, and she was there. And it immediately put me back at Parks Casino last year because I saw Colin Jost and he told jokes about Scarlett Johansson, including off-color jokes. So you have that to look forward to because he's coming back to Parks. So too, Larry the Cable Guy, Cole Swindell, the country artist. Who else is coming? The reggae sounds of Shaggy, actor Richard Kind from Curb Your Enthusiasm, Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains, magician Michael Carbonaro. If there's somebody still on your gift list, whatever they may like in terms of entertainment, you can get it at Parks Casino. Have some fun. Enjoy dinner and drinks before the show at the Liberty Bell Gastro Pub, Parks Grill Steakhouse, Bamboo Noodle House, parkscasino.com. Buy the tickets. You got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, am I glad that yesterday, because I was toying with when I should do a Biden death row poll question, I did it yesterday, and the news today. It's the lead story at Smerconish.com. Should President Biden commute the sentences of the 40 men on the federal government's death row? We had 25,165 vote. Not bad for a Sunday before Christmas. 65.09% said, no, don't do it. Well, he did it for 37 of the 40. President Biden commuted the sentences of nearly all prisoners on federal death row, sparing the lives of 37 men just a month before Donald Trump returns to the Oval Office with a promise, meaning by Trump, that he will restart federal executions. Of the 37 men whose sentences were commuted, 15 are white, 15 are black, 6 are Latino, 1 is Asian. They were sentenced in 16 states, including 3 that have abolished the death penalty. Now, you're wondering, okay, if he's commuted the sentences they stay in prison for the rest of their lives, but he's commuted their death penalty sentence. So who are the 3 that he wouldn't do it for? Robert Bowers, who in 2018 perpetrated that horrific execution of 11 worshipers at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. Dylan Roof, the white supremacist who opened fire on black parishioners at a church in South Carolina and killed 9 in 2015. And one of the Tsarnaev brothers, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, one of the 2 brothers who carried out the Boston Marathon execution of 3 and the maiming of dozens of others. So they will still be on the books for the death penalty. But who was excused? Okay. Marcia Vici Barnett killed a man in a carjacking and his ex-girlfriend. Brandon Basham and Chadrick Folks kidnapped and killed a woman after escaping prison. Anthony Battle, who killed a prison guard. Jason Brown, who stabbed a postal worker. Thomas Hager, who committed a drug deal, and on and on and on. That's my problem with this. That is my problem. What is the difference between the Tsarnaev brothers and Anthony Battle, who killed a prison guard? Like, a prison guard should be the same as a cop, right? You automatically get a death sentence if you carry out an execution of somebody working in law enforcement. Rajon Taylor, carjacked, kidnapped, killed a restaurant owner. Alejandro Umana killed two brothers inside a. I mean, my problem with the death penalty, and I have strong feelings about this because of my work over a period of decades for Maureen Faulkner, whose police officer husband, Danny Faulkner, was murdered by Mumia Abu Jamal. That gave me a front row seat, albeit to the highest profile death penalty case on the planet. My problem is we don't mean it. I mean, Jamal ultimately had his sentence changed to a life in prison without the possibility of parole. If Maureen had not fought so valiantly, I'm convinced he would have walked free, even though he killed her police officer husband. We have it and we don't mean it. You know, I'll tell you what I think. Use it or lose it. Use it or lose it. And frankly, I think the fact that President Biden left these three off the list just speaks to the hypocrisy of it all. If he really meant that we shouldn't have a death penalty, then he should have let those three go as well. Not go, but commuted their sentences. He should have, but he couldn't do that because he was afraid of the blowback, and appropriately so, for the synagogue in Pittsburgh and the church in South Carolina. So I don't like it. Like, let's make a decision. Are we going to really have it and use it or not? Because it tortures the families of the victims for a second time, because initially you've got the trial and then you've got the penalty phase after the conviction, and you've got to come back and put on all the evidence again and torture the family members who are present by explaining why the death penalty is necessary. Fighting a cold. So that is yesterday's poll question at Smerconish.com. And then there is today's poll question on this Monday. President Trump yesterday had a rally-like event in Arizona, was crowing about his strong performance among young voters and using that as a justification of maybe saving TikTok. By the way, how problematic is that? He's flat out saying, forget the merit, forget the merit of the issue. If you vote for me, I'm going to protect your interest. Like, that's the worst of all, right? So you know now that President Biden, more hypocrisy by Trump, hypocrisy by Biden. Merry Christmas. But President Biden signed into law that bipartisan bill that said that TikTok will be banned unless divested of its Chinese ownership. But Biden stayed on TikTok during the course of the campaign when he was still the candidate. This is the first time in history that the government has ever banned a medium of communication. It is not simply outlawing a single newspaper or publisher, which itself could be problematic under the First Amendment, but it's banning a platform on which billions of videos are uploaded each year. I read the decision yesterday or the day before. The Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia decided this case on December 6th. Now it goes to the Supreme Court on an expedited basis. Arguments are going to be, I think it's January 10th. And this takes effect on the 19th, one day before the inauguration, unless something calls it off. So my poll question today is, should the U.S. government have the authority to ban social media platforms like TikTok due to national security concerns? Is it constitutional for the government to demand that TikTok divest of Chinese ownership or face a ban? Danny Savalos, guest hosting for me today on radio. Perfect fodder for him. I don't like it. And I don't like it because I think, having read the opinion, that the court was so willing to accept our government's assertion that this is a threat to national security. But how is it a threat to national security? They said two things. One, that it's necessary to counter the People's Republic of China efforts to collect great quantities of data about tens of millions of Americans. I don't like the idea of the Chinese having my personal data, but how is that a threat to national security? That was one. Two of two, the limit of the PRC's ability to manipulate the content covertly on the TikTok platform. So Erwin Chemerinsky, who I really respect and is the dean of the Berkeley School of Law, he said the second rationale given by the court is even more problematic. The rationale that says they could manipulate content if they wanted to on TikTok. Chemerinsky says the second rationale by the court is even more problematic, that China will covertly manipulate content on TikTok to undermine democracy. The court said that China threatens to distort free speech on important mediums of communication. And he doesn't buy into that. Chemerinsky argues the following. Under this rationale, the United States could ban a foreign newspaper or a book published in another country from being available in this country because it is seen as undermining democracy. Indeed, this justification would allow the government to prohibit any book published by the Chinese government because it could be deemed an effort to extend the PRC's influence. The government never should have power to censor speech because it dislikes the message expressed. I agree with him. The TikTok case is involving issues that have never been decided by our court before. I was surprised when I read the D.C. Court of Appeals opinion on this, how easily they accepted the government's assertion that this is a threat to national security. And they said that they applied a high level of scrutiny, as is necessary in some First Amendment cases. So that's what I think. I think that that this ban is a bad idea, number one. I think, number two, it opens up Pandora's box for the banning of other things because our government doesn't like them, which is totally at odds with the First Amendment. I recognize that Chinese citizens, the People's Republic of China is not entitled to a First Amendment protection, but we are. And I also just find it shocking even for Trump that he stands up in front of a crowd and says, well, the young people voted for me, so I might have to protect TikTok. And what, if young people didn't vote for you, then you're not going to do anything for TikTok? Should the U.S. government have the authority to ban social media platforms like TikTok due to national security concerns? That is the question. Nancy Lawrence, Trump being Trump. Yes, that is true. Kelly, I don't use the platform of TikTok and do not recommend it. My kids, grown, don't use it. EU hasn't banned it, says JW. Why would we? Robert Britchko, that is par for the course with Trump. Yes, it is. I'm on it. I'm on it because I'm on all of the platforms. Maybe that doesn't make it right. But just for short, videos that inexplicably some will go viral and some nobody will even look at. YouTube Shorts, same as TikTok. Yeah. Well, okay, I'm gonna get caught up on all of these, I promise, during the course of the day. My algorithm basically is British comedy. My algorithm is it worthy content? I truly have an internal algorithm that I use to determine what are going to be the stories that I post every day in the newsletter. And it's kind of hard for me if I were to have to write it out, but like pornography and what Potter Stewart once said, I know it when I see it. So I spend a lot of time, an inordinate amount of time, just seeing what's going on online, seeing what people are really interested in, trying to grab from disparate sources on the left and the right, and to make sure that I've got a good blend. And usually, most days, I'm really proud when the newsletter comes out and I take a look at it and I say, yeah, damn, we did well there. We did well. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's the day before the day before. Looks like it's sunny and cold in the Northeast. That's my weather forecast. I hope you have a great day. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow with tomorrow's poll question of the day. Go vote on today's TikTok poll question. Thank you for voting on yesterday's poll question. We were a day ahead of the curve, were we not? Have a wonderful, wonderful day and a great holiday season. If I don't see you before, a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, a happy and healthy New Year.